Hey folks, it's Rob from Rob's Movie Collection. So, continuing the series, A Movie for Every Year of My Life. For the year 1973, I choose Invasion of the Bee-Girls. You know how people love to say that Ed Wood was the worst filmmaker of all time and Plan 9 from Outer Space is the worst movie ever? Yeah, no, not even close. Somebody probably said that once in a book or a documentary or something, and the media latched onto it, and everybody just jumped on the bandwagon. Oh, sure, Ed Wood's movies are not masterpieces of cinema by any means, but they're freaking Citizen Kane compared to some of the stuff they churned out in the 70s, especially in the sci-fi horror genre. I mean, at least Ed Wood's movies were filmed somewhat decently, whereas the 70s movies just look cheap and often you barely make out what you're looking at. The cinematography is so bad. But thank God, because it gave us some of the best, worst films of all time. And that brings us to Invasion of the Bee-Girls. This movie is about, well, it's about an hour and 20 minutes actually. Good Lord, how do you describe it? I know, let's let Wikipedia help us. The premise of the movie is that a mad scientist is using a radiation-mutated bee serum to create an army of female beauties who seduce men to death. One by one, the victims are killed before the local police catch on to the plans of the infected females. Yeah, you heard it right. The gorgeous women are banging these guys to death. What a way to go. The movie stars William Smith as Special Agent Neil Agar, who comes to town to investigate the death of a scientist working on government-sponsored research. You might recognize William Smith, aside from being the reason for which that other guy probably had to shorten his first name to be an actor. Smith was a character actor with a long career in the industry. I'm sure most of you have probably seen him in some movie, including bare-knuckle fighting with Clint Eastwood in Any Which Way You Can, as the villain in Rich Man, Poor Man, and for you sword and sorcery junkies, he was Conan's dad in 1982's Conan the Barbarian, where he advised young Conan on the facts of life, fought bravely against Thulsa Doom's invading horde, and died tragically protecting his family. A great actor with a long and fruitful career. The movie co-stars the beautiful Victoria Vetri as Julie Zorn, the lab's head librarian who becomes an ally to Agar and often needs to be saved by his macho man prowess. Victoria Vetri was a model and actress who was almost Maria in the film version of West Side Story and was born in Queen of Angels Hospital in Los Angeles, California, which coincidentally was also the birthplace of Rob from Rob's Movie Collection. She went on to appear in many TV and film roles in the 60s and landed the starring role in When Dinosaurs Ruled the Earth, a film which I have no doubt will eventually appear as a video on this channel. And she was also Playboy's 1967 Playmate of the Month and Playmate of the Year 1968. Ooh, am I being a toxic male by saying that? Well, I might as well lean into it then. Here you go. Also in 2010, she tried to shoot her husband to death and went to jail, but we'll skip over that. Cliff Osmond plays Captain Peters, the town sheriff who helps Agar with his investigation and almost becomes a victim himself. Osmond, another actor who had a long and lucrative career for decades, appeared in Billy Wilder films such as Irma la Douce and The Fortune Cookie, as well as many others, and also TV works such as The Twilight Zone, Ironside, and All in the Family. The guy had a great career. And as the villainess of the film, we have Anitra Ford. Yes, Anitra, not Anita. Playing Susan Harris, the mad scientist, and a very sexy one at that. She's actually an entomologist working on experiments with bees. Well, that makes sense. She acts cold and distant towards the male scientists, until, of course, when she strikes. Anitra Ford is an actress and model mostly known for her work as a Price is Right model with Bob Barker. Aside from Invasion of the B-Girls, she also appeared in the Burt Reynolds movie The Longest Yard and several episodes of 70s TV shows, including playing Hutch's girlfriend on Starsky and Hutch. Honestly, if I was a scientist working at a lab with her, I'd be a goner. Oh, and the music. Yeah, by Charles Bernstein, who would also compose the music for Love at First Bite and Nightmare on Elm Street. Oh, and here's one for you. This movie was written by Sylvia Schnabel and Nicholas Meyer. Now, in case the name Nicholas Meyer doesn't ring a bell, let me give you a clue. Yep. This movie was co-written by the guy who would go on to write and direct what is considered to be the best of all the Star Trek films. Now, they say that the script was altered when he went away, but you gotta believe that enough of his stuff was left in there that he has to get some credit for this. So, during the course of the film, the B-girls seduce and kill the men, all of whom are just the most sexist, cheating pigs, by the way, so you don't really feel that sorry for them, while at the same time taking their girlfriends and wives and converted them to B-girls using the aforementioned B serum, some goop, and a very 70s mad scientist-looking machine. Of course, the essential element of this transformation process is the nudity. I first saw this movie when I was a kid in the 70s. I've mentioned before on my channel growing up in Hollywood and watching a lot of TV. I was an only child and I was what was termed a latchkey kid. Something I never saw as a negative myself. I mean, I got to do my homework while watching TV and eating SpaghettiOs. What's not to like? I've also mentioned the great channels we had back then. Sure, they were limited to only a handful compared to these days, but in many ways I think the reason I'm a movie fan is because of this. While physical media is great and even streaming can have its good points, there was something to do with having to watch what was on at the time. Maybe if I'd had more choices, I wouldn't have elected to watch something like Invasion of the B-Girls. Oh, who am I kidding? Girls, bees, and sex, of course I watched it. But the point is that because of the limitations, I watched what was on. And so I know about films like Master of the Flying Guillotine, Blackula, and Invasion of the B-Girls. Of course, the version I saw back then was heavily edited, and in fact, I wouldn't actually see the uncut version until years later, thanks to a little store called Blockbuster Video. So, if you haven't seen Invasion of the B-Girls, check it out. It's buzzworthy. Well, a cheesy joke for a cheesy film. What do you want? Still, next time a pretty girl who is clearly out of your league comes on to you, be careful. It may just be the invasion of the B-Girls.